About Carol Vorderman, who has quit her BBC Radio Wales show because she says that she will be gagged by the BBC's social media guidelines. She has, of course, been very anti the government on lots of different things. She regularly shares her opinion on politics and the government and social media. The BBC's new guidelines would apply to her social media posts, despite her radio show being, as she put it, light-hearted and with no political content. She added how she is not prepared to lose my voice on social media. She regularly shares her opinion on politics and the government on Twitter. Terry in Ramsbottom says, don't pay the wages of the likes of Carol Vorderman, Gary Lineker, etc. Cancel your TV licence, says Terry. Well, let's talk to Joe Ventry, who is Digital Campaign Manager at the Taxpayers Alliance. Joe, what do you think of Carol Vorderman? Does the BBC stand for Bye Bye Carol?
Well, hello, Peter. Thank you for having me on. This is an interesting development, isn't it? I mean, Carol Vorderman was, of course, at one time a very big media figure and to some degree still is. Frankly, I think it's something of a positive development from the BBC to see them actually reprimanding someone like this for their use of social media. I mean, I think anyone could see that what she did goes against what we all broadly know to be BBC rules on impartiality. And so I think it's actually, for once, a very positive development, specifically after the embarrassment that happened with Gary Lineker earlier in the year.
But if her show is, if her show has nothing to do with politics and it's just a light-hearted music show on a Saturday morning on BBC Radio Wales, why does it matter?
Well, I think there's a basic level of trust that comes in with the BBC. After all, we're talking about a station which is funded from licence fee payers. That means if you or I own a television, we're liable to pay that fee. And so I think a very basic expectation from TV viewers is that the broadcasting corporation that they're paying for doesn't espouse political opinions. Of course, everyone has different opinions, and unlike other stations, you can't choose to opt out for paying for the BBC. So I think that's a very basic expectation that has existed since the inception of the BBC, and I think it's a shame now that such strict guidelines have had to be put in place. But I'm glad that at least they seem to be having some effect.
I mean, it is something of a conundrum for Carol. Sorry, there's no real answer to that, Joe. I just wanted to ask that question because it's got a pun in it.
Well, certainly. I mean, look, I don't want to see anyone feel unable to voice their political opinions.
Yeah, I mean, Rachel Riley does it, but she's in Channel 4, of course.
Exactly, and I think, look, there's a clear distinction here. You can either be a BBC presenter or you can be a political commentator with partisan views. You can't be both, and I think that's a really fair expectation.
Gary Lineker should be next out of the door, if you ask me, Joe.
Well, certainly, I think a lot of licence fee payers would be happy to see that. Of course, this is a man who receives a 7-figure salary on behalf of licence fee payers every year and seems to laud this over people as well. Seems to be able to laud the idea that he's so arrogant.
Honestly, it is just disgraceful. Joe, thanks for your thoughts there. Joe Ventry there, Digital Campaign Manager at the Taxpayers Alliance.